Good morning, everyone. While being someone used to speaking to a group as a teacher, speaking today through a sermon is a little bit of a new challenge. Most of the sermon is actually based upon the baccalaureate homily that I had the opportunity to deliver for the graduating class at Campbell Hall. I had asked to speak to that community as a thank you and final message for our family relocated. And then when Pastor Peg asked me to potentially speak today, I want to share a similar message with all of you. So some of these will come from some of the elements will come from our readings here today, some from our experience of our family here that we've had the last few years at Lutheran Church of the Master. So here are my best attempts at trying to accomplish this. They're a mixture of scripture, the personal, and popular culture, trying to find the balance between the silly and the serious, and adding a touch of irreverence to this most reverent of church proceedings. Both the Jeremiah reading and Psalm 23 address the common idea of the Lord as our shepherd, helping to guide his people, providing shelter, support, and allowing our flock as humanity to thrive. Within the roles of pastors, teachers, and parents, you can see these goals, searching to guide those they're working with through the challenges they will face to where they can develop and prosper. As a teacher, children's stories are a wonderful resource to easily connect people to concepts and guide people to find a path to follow, ranging from the Tao of Pooh to Click Clack Moo, or childhood favorites Conjunction Junction, or I'm Just a Bill. Additionally, as a teacher, I've had my government students write children's books every year as their final project, starting with the year that I was on paternity leave when Kate was born. As a big kid myself, and the father of 2 small children, these are tales with which I'm deeply familiar, and I hope you can connect with them as well. Additionally, the need for the welcoming of children and receiving the message of God like children is addressed by multiple gospel authors. As our church continues to embark upon its mission and development as a community, together, and keeping with the spirit of receiving the message of the Lord like a child, many of these pearls of wisdom will come from the stories you knew as children, with a few other sources included as well. My original speech themed around the ideas of the mission statement of the school, focusing on being a community of inquiry committed to academic excellence and the nurturing of decent, loving, responsible human beings. These same concepts of being decent, loving, and responsible humans play heavily into how Christians should interact with our world, coming up today in the reading from Mark and all the ways the apostles and Jesus served the people of the day. So let's start with being decent, where the great Dr. Seuss gave us several examples of decency. Perhaps none greater than the honest diligence of Horton the elephant sitting on the egg, as he meant what he said, and he said what he meant, as an elephant's faithful 100%. So I've seen the way, over the past several years as a church, we've picked each other up, strove to be considerate of others, and welcoming, and make decisions that can be difficult, but best address our goals as a community. When I gave this speech, I ran to the students that as they're going forward in life, people will not see their score in any one test. That won't be their measuring stick, but they'll be remembered if they treated people with respect and compassion, as that decency will be far more memorable aspect in the end for them. This message is even more important to always remember as a church and Christians, following the teachings we've been taught in our daily lives and how we treat all that come to our doors, regardless of their background, who they love, or how old they are. This aspect of decency and welcoming was something our family greatly appreciated, especially the construction of the children's area where we've sat the last few years. With loving being part of the greatest commandment for Christians, let's skip loving for a moment and go on to being responsible. While everything from Harry Potter to The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe can show us different aspects of taking responsibility and leadership, perhaps my favorite singular word on responsibility came as the message left behind by us from the Lorax with the word, unless. As unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing is going to get better. It's not. You see, responsibility is more than just your own actions. It's taking your place as a citizen of your community, your nation, your church, and your world. It's been a wonder to see the flurry of ways that we as a church have striven and struggled to do this, from volunteering with groups that members are passionate about supporting, to trying to make a difference for those in need in our local community and those that have relocated, and working to draw attention to political and social causes that have hit our hearts deeply these last few years. Remember that not only the church, but each of you have the chance to find your own unless, to find that thing that truly matters to you and help create a brighter world. And with that idea of finding what truly matters, let's circle back around to our last idea, being loving. Now, popular culture and literature have not always done its best job at showing us the real meaning of love. such as that infamous line from Love Story in the 1970s that indicates, love means never having to say you're sorry. In my experience, love, be it with your family, your friends, your spouse, often requires the willingness to apologize and to apologize often. And now, not every example of being loving requires some degree of self-sacrifice, as we not all need to volunteer at our own peril, like Katniss in the Hunger Games or the Giving Tree, or make the ultimate sacrifice for mankind that Jesus did. But being loving will always require consideration of others. More than most other concepts, being loving is much more complex, as it's how we show our deep appreciation and consideration for our friends, our family, and our fellow humanity. Even when not thought of as love, we all get by with a little help from our friends, whether Woody and Buzz, Charlotte and Wilbur, Lilo and Stitch, or E.T. and Elliot, forging connections that change lives. Beyond it being magical, love is one of the many lessons from Harry Potter. From the deep values and meaning of friendship between Harry, Ron, and Hermione, to the willingness to act purely for the benefit of those we love, ranging from Harry's parents to Snape's always. From the Disney movie Frozen, we can learn that love can thaw a frozen heart. And in recognition of the true value of those you love, Olaf the Snowman will say, some people are worth melting for. And finally, as a pop culture reference, bring it back to the divine and how important love can be. And although it's not a children's book, the last line of the musical Les Miserables references, and remember, the truth that once was spoken, to love another person is to see the face of God. While love is something that's incredibly difficult to teach, I hope as a church community, there can be a continuous focus on what we can always do to support everyone's capacity for it. Love is something that should always be present in our thoughts. As Jesus said, thou shalt love thy Lord thy God with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. And the second is like unto it, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. On these two commandments hang all the law and the prophets. I hope that going forward, you'll keep these bonds of love and community you have with your fellow parishioners, hold tight to the love of your families, and open your hearts to the love of new people and the good of the world as a whole. When I spoke to the seniors, I addressed the unique position they were in. Their particular year, knowing they were in a transitional period in life. Similarly, as a church, in the transition of the call period and striving to grow and develop, we might feel in a similar position. I reminded them that they may have started off parts of the year feeling like Rapunzel, trapped in a tower, wondering, when will my life begin? Ready to see the next chapter and see their proverbial lights. As things progressed more likely and more boldly, they became Tiana, feeling that they were almost there and achieving some goal they've been working hard for each and every day for a long time. But now that both they and us as a church are on the precipice of the next big steps, you may feel more like Moana, being called to a path forward and yet questioning how far you'll go and what will happen when you finally cross that line. So where do we go from here? In a speech that I gave originally during graduation weekend with a theme around children's books, or in this case, a sermon based upon children's books in that speech, it'd be remarkable not to quote the most popular advice given from any children's book from any type of occasion, which is, of course, oh, the places you'll go. As it starts, congratulations, today is your day. You're off to great places. You're off and away. You have brains in your head. You have feet in your shoes. You can steer yourself any direction you choose. So that sounds really optimistic. And spoiler alert for those who have not yet read it, it'll end pretty optimistically as well. But I always appreciate that that book shows that not everything will go smoothly when you're off and away. Except when you don't, because sometimes you won't. I'm sorry to say, but sadly it's true, that bang-ups and hang-ups can happen to you. So while part of this could be about building our resiliency to prepare for life's challenges or how we should turn, and this is something we should do and it's essential for moving forward, I want to look at another way to see these things. Sometimes these setbacks are always your road forward. To show both my age and Midwestern roots, in the words of, and that line means a little bit, the words of 1990s country star Garth Brooks, sometimes I thank God for unanswered prayers. Remember when you're talking to the man upstairs, that just because he doesn't answer doesn't mean you don't care. Some of God's greatest gifts are unanswered prayers. And that might look at an odd way to look at any situation like this, and especially it can seem disappointing at the time. But I can really attest that idea, as I'd not be here today if not for the way that God answered many of my hopes and prayers. When younger, I'd always dreamed of going for a very certain college, but ended up at another one for a variety of reasons. And while this could have been disappointing, it ultimately led to me meeting my best friends in the world, including Ginger. Similarly, when a former professor was in charge of a service learning program that was reading books to young children, which sounded fun and a fairly easy course my final semester in college, she told me, no. And she placed me in an internship in state government, a position without which I'd have probably never become a teacher, particularly one who loves teaching government. When ultimately I didn't get into a graduate school to become a history professor and fulfill the plan I'd had since my sophomore year of high school, it instead opened the door to work for several years in that government position and figure out my true desire in life, which is to teach high school, as well as keeping me in Missouri long enough for Ginger and I to start dating and ultimately get married. And finally, when Ginger was finishing graduate school and was looking throughout the country for jobs, my one wish was please not California. As teaching jobs at the middle of the recession were way too difficult to find at the time. 9 months later, after she had taken a job in Wisconsin, it transferred out to Los Angeles and ultimately brought me to the wonderful school where I taught for 8 years and here to Lutheran Church of the Master. Without all these events that went against my most earnest desires, I'd have not have taught at Campbell Hall or worshiped here with all of you here at LCM or married Ginger or had Jack and Kate. And now they're off to an unexpected next adventure. I have no idea how it'll turn out, but I know I'll make it through the next adventure surrounded by people that are worth milting for. The next thing is, whenever you individually or the church itself is on these adventures, make sure whether they turn out the way you hoped or not, make sure to never lose yourself. That doesn't mean your hopes, dreams, and parts of you won't change over time. But at the same time, make sure you remain true to who you are and do not let others dictate what that should be. You should never feel like Mulan before she took her bold steps toward realization, as she'd always felt her reflection was forced to hide who she truly was. Instead, make sure you're always able to show the world what's inside your heart and be loved for who you are. My final piece of advice for these adventures, one of the reasons I connected this whole message directly to children's books and movies, is to hope you'll never lose a feeling of childlike wonder in all you do. Taking in our world as a whole and expressing your faith with that continued sense of awe and wonder. I'm not suggesting you try to take on the world with childish naivete, as these are not particularly the days for that, but that you continue to find the joy and excitement for new experiences and life overall in the way I've consistently seen in some way with my own children and my life as a teacher. We live in a world that is constantly making new discoveries and is filled with awe-inspiring places. So never lose your willingness to metaphorically board the magic school bus or try those green eggs in ham, even in a box or with a fox or on a boat or with a goat. Also, never give up the ability to find the magic of life and let your imagination go wild. Taking time to tumble down the rabbit hole with Alice, journey through the wardrobe to Narnia, board the Hogwarts Express at platform 9 3/4, join the lovers and dreamers on their search for the rainbow connection, or sail to where the wild things are and let your own wild rumpus start. This is why I proudly still call myself a big kid. And while I can handle the issues of the adult world as a teacher and a parent, I never want to lose that sense of childlike joy, wonder, and imagination and faith. And I hope that you do not as well. Additionally, I hope that, like the apostles in our reading today, you're able to find a chance for some rest and respite after all your endeavors and mission of the world, potentially even connecting back with some of these books or movies during your times of respite. So finally, to wrap this up, I wish, of course, I guarantee that, like in the book, all the places you'll go, that everything that we'll do and all the efforts of the church will take on in the next few years will succeed, 98 3/4% guaranteed. And even without any guarantee, I hope you can go forward with a sense of decency, love, and responsibility that we are called to as a church and a community of faith. You'll find the people and passions that matter most to you. That you can find your way forward when your prayers and hopes are not initially answered. That you can be true to yourself, and that you never fully grow up, even being an adult. Make the most out of every day, and remember that in all you choose to take on, that you're off to great places. Today is your day. Your mountain is waiting, so get on your way. Thank you all so much for all your love and support for these last few years, and may you all continue to act and support our fellow humanity as children of God. Thank you.